Good evening, my dearest Tams. I hope that this video finds you warm and dry and inside. I hope it finds you well fed. And if you can't hear this until Monday morning, I hope it finds you well rested. So in a moment, I'm going to read from chapter 19 from Kinship with All Life. I was also, right before I had called a moment ago, I've been looking at a couple books in preparation for my grocery shopping for Passover. So that's a bit of a backdrop. Two, I am wearing a hat, and it's the Deny Everything hat, which I purchased in the gift shop of the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. I'd really like to see the museum someday, hopefully sometime soon together. Anyway, chapter 19 is called Imprisoned Splendor. Now came the crowning achievement in my kinship adventure with Strongheart. He shared a fascinating secret with me. A mystery that had baffled professional dog handlers, Hollywood entertainment producers, and countless thousands of his admirers all over the world. This was the mystery. What had been done with Strongheart behind the scenes so successfully to transform him from a dangerous and difficult to manage war dog into an understanding and friendly motion picture star? I did not get the answer to this question from Strongheart all at once, but bit by bit as we shared silent talk together. If you would understand this secret, you must first understand the distinction between training an animal and educating one. Trained animals are relatively easy to turn out. All that's required is a book of instructions, a certain amount of bluff and bluster, something to use for threatening and punishing purposes, and of course, the animal. Educating an animal, on the other hand, demands keen intelligence, integrity, imagination, and a gentle touch, mentally, vocally, and physically. The most significant difference between training and educating an animal, I learned from Strongheart, lies in the matter of emphasis. It depends on whether one places emphasis on the mental or the physical part of the animal. The conventional trainer, following traditional and rigid patterns, places his emphasis almost entirely on the physical. As long as this animal looks its best and obeys orders promptly, he's satisfied. This method is limiting to the animal and stereotyped in its results. The conventional trainer starts with a negative premise. He assumes that he is working with a dumb and inferior form of life, even at its best, can only so far in intelligence and accomplishments because of its limited brain capacity. If he happens to be working with a dog, his primary ambition is to dominate the animal, that it will completely be subservient to him, obey his every command, and treat him with adulterous attention at all times. It is as though he were constantly saying to the dog, "Now don't forget, you down there, that I am your Lord and Master. So follow and do everything I say, or else." Most of the animals that man has used to serve his own selfish ends down through the centuries have been products of this training with our education system. A minimum of intelligence and a maximum of force are employed in order to compel blind obedience. In professional circles, this is known as the make 'em or break 'em technique. The animal's resistance is so broken down and its spontaneity and initiative so dulled that it supinely does whatever the trainer demands. With its thinking and natural impulses walled off, it becomes a four-legged slave, subservient, serving the moods and the whims of the human ego. The animal educator does just the reverse of this. Moving into the situation with insight and intuition, he places full emphasis on the mental rather than on the physical part of the animal. He treats it as an intelligent fellow being whose capacity for development and expression he refuses to limit in any direction. He knows that the animal's appearance, actions, and accomplishments are only the outward expression of its state of mind. He seeks to help the animal make use of its thinking faculties, so that there will be corresponding results in looks, character, and actions. When Strongheart began his motion picture career in Hollywood, he was a splendid example of both, a well-trained and well-educated dog. The training and educating had taken place on different sides of the Atlantic Ocean. In Germany, he had been carefully trained into the highly efficient police and war dog, into a heavily regimented state of thinking and acting in which practically everything was planned and managed for him. When he first arrived in the United States, he was a good example of a well-trained but uneducated dog. In spite of his physical magnificence and his accomplishments and awards, he was lopsided and out of proportion and off balance. He was a long way from having the kind of development that rightfully belonged to him. A great dog, in a way, he was actually a great liability, unless one were planning to take part in a public or private war. Yet out of all this lopsidedness, with the understanding and patient help of Larry Trimble, there blossomed one of the best balanced, best educated, and most successful dogs in history. It was not an easy achievement, even for Trimble. Strongheart was aggressive, set in his ways, and opposed to changing his thinking and behavior patterns. His attitude toward Larry during many challenging and almost hopeless weeks of experimenting was an ever ready to explode mixture of superiority, dislike, indifference, and annoyance. He was constantly suspicious and watchful to see when Trimble, whom he regarded as an enemy in disguise, would start the anticipated trouble. No command and compulsion efforts were used in getting Strongheart out of this militant attitudes. Trimble, with wisdom sharpened by long experience with animals, spent long periods of time alone with the dog, alone with the big combat dog, on an isolated farm, giving Strongheart all possible freedom, studying all the things he did, searching for the motivating reasons back of them, and trying to figure out what could be done to help his potential screen star into a better and more shareable sense of life. After many weeks, Trimble found that the secret by means of which Strongheart was transformed from one state of mind to another, from a belligerent war dog to a sympathetic, intelligent, and cooperative movie star. Trimble discovered that deep within the big combat dog, but solidly imprisoned there, was a wealth of magnificent character qualities. Those talents and graces buried beneath the dog's tough physical exterior did not need to be developed, but liberated. That is what Trimble proceeded to do. The blueprint for education of Strongheart might well have been borrowed from the famous line of Robert Browning's Paracelsus. Truth is within ourselves, it takes no rise. From outward things, whate'er you may believe, there is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness and around, wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in, the perfect clear perception, which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mess binds it and makes all error, and to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be without. With penetrating perception and deft but gentle technique, Trimble began opening out all sorts of ways for Strongheart's imprisoned splendor to escape into expression. At first the expression was meager because of the newness of the experience, but then it came in spontaneous abundance. The big war dog was helped to know, to be, and to share more of his real self. And it was this unrestricted sharing of his real self which enabled Strongheart to accomplish the almost incredible things he did and to achieve his unsurpassed rating in the world of entertainment. This is the framework of the secret that Strongheart shared with me from across our invisible bridge for two-way thought traffic, and Larry Trimble subsequently confirmed in every detail. But as then, so now, it is a difficult secret for the conventional-minded to grasp, contain, and use in a practical way because of its divinely motivated simplicity and naturalness. I hope you sleep really well, Tams. I hope you wake really well, Tams. I hope you know how well you are loved, Tams.